of capital markets. Here we have two substandards, 2A, which is material non-public information, and 2B, which is market manipulation. The Khatri case has to do with 2A, material non-public information. Khatri, a candidate in the CFA program, plays on a local cricket team. Patel, an attorney and Khatri's brother-in-law, and Ahuja, an owner of a software development company called ZP, also play on the same team. Patel handles the legal work for ZP. Recently, a large global information technology company called GIT made an offer to buy ZP at a substantial premium over the company's current share price. Patel is working with the lawyers from GIT to assist in their due diligence. One weekend between matches, Khatri overhears Patel speaking with representatives of GIT on his cell phone. Although mention of a ZP acquisition is not made, Khatri hears Patel repeatedly reference the name GIT. Khatri also sees Patel and Ahuja huddled in private conversations several times over the course of the weekend. Based on this, he guesses that ZP is being acquired. On Monday, Khatri purchases 5,000 shares of ZP. 1 week later, ZP announces its acquisition by GIT and its share price increases 30%. Khatri's actions are A violation of the CFA Institute Code and Standards, B, acceptable because Khatri's investment was based on his own speculation, and C, acceptable because Khatri received the information in a public environment. Now here, you might be thinking that perhaps this is okay because the mosaic theory is being applied. But we need to keep in mind that the information that he got was confidential, non-public, and material. Therefore, the mosaic theory does not apply. Also, even though the information is received in a public environment, but he is overhearing a private conversation. So this is not really public information. The best answer, therefore, is A, which is that Khatri's actions are a violation of the CFA Institute Code and Standards. This case also has to do with 2A, material non-public information. Kwame is the chief financial officer of PH3D, a biotech firm that researches, develops, and commercializes pharmaceutical drugs. PH3D submits a drug application to the government regulator for a promising new drug. When the meeting between the regulator and PH3D takes place, PH3D presents unpublished preliminary test data with favorable indicators for the drug. The regulator reacts positively and gives PH3D provisional regulatory approval contingent on further studies. Later, some research analysts covering PH3D ask Kwame about the meeting. Kwame responds by email mentioning that the meeting with the regulator was very positive and productive, and that the company was pleasantly surprised by the regulator's reaction. Kwame does not share the favorable preliminary test data. After Kwame's emails to the analysts, the company's stock price increases 19%. Okay, coming to the options now. Kwame's actions, A, violate the CFA Institute Code and Standards, B, are appropriate because he does not share the unpublished preliminary test data with the analysts and restricts his comments to the general tenor of the meeting, or C, are appropriate because he responds to questions from research analysts covering the company. So here, if you think about it, there is definitely material non-public information. So both the reaction of the regulator is material and non-public, and the test results or the test data is also material and non-public. In this case, Kwame has shared some material non-public data with a select group of analysts. Now, these are analysts who asked the question, but in any case, it is a select group. It is not a public disclosure for anyone. And that is what makes this a violation. The fact that this material non-public information is only being shared with a select group. Therefore, the best option is A, which is that Kwame's actions violate the CFA Institute Code and Standards. The next case has to do with 2B, market manipulation. Abha is a securities contractor. She is helping Superior Energy, SE, list its shares on the Regional Security Exchange, RSX. RSX's current listing rule states that entities seeking admission must meet a minimum spread requirement of at least 300 shareholders with a minimum holding value to qualify for listing. SE already has some shareholders. Abha arranges an additional 31 shareholders, which enables SE to meet the minimum spread requirement of 300 shareholders in its listing application. However, none of the 31 shareholders are actual buyers of SE securities. Abha provides false names and addresses for these shareholders. Eventually, the SE listing is successful and the stock is admitted to the official list of the RSX. Over time, SE's share price steadily increases. The company attracts many new investors, and the original early investors get an excellent return on their investment. Abha's actions, A, violate the CFA Institute Code and Standards. B, are acceptable because SE proved to be a strong company with excellent performance. C, are acceptable because no investors were harmed by the technical violations of RSX rules. Now, this is fairly straightforward. Clearly, Abha has done something wrong. She has shown 31 shareholders who were not actually shareholders. So she's just given names and she has manipulated the market, manipulated the situation so that this company gets listed. The fact that the company did well or that no one was harmed is besides the point. She basically engaged in manipulation, and therefore this is a violation of the code and standards.